Trump did not force Macron out of Vatican talks with Zelensky. Putin thanks North Korean troops for participation in war, while U.S. State Department expresses concern, and how Trump says Putin must stop its strikes on Ukraine and sign agreement. The latest news next. U.S. President Donald Trump did not tell French President Emmanuel Macron to leave the meeting with their Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky, reports The Telegraph. What happened? Last weekend, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky had a brief meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump in the Vatican during the Pope's funeral. A video was released in the media showing French President Emmanuel Macron approaching Trump and Zelensky before their conversation. The video also shows that 3 chairs are first placed in the hall of St. Peter's Basilica, leading to speculation that Macron also wanted to participate in the conversation between Trump and Zelensky. But the 3rd chair was later removed. The Sun analyzed the video, and a lip reader suggested Trump allegedly said to Macron, "You are not in the right here. I need you to do me a favor. You should not be here." What it really was. According to The Telegraph, their source at the Elysee Palace denied the claims that Trump had kicked Macron out. As far as we know, during a one-on-one talk, Trump began by calling Russia's attacks on civilians disgusting. A source close to the talks said that it appeared that Trump feels almost a bit burned by Putin attacking civilians in Kiev, which left him looking a bit stupid. While the exact nature of the conversation is open to interpretation, French diplomatic sources made it clear that the chair was for the interpreter, not Macron, and downplayed any tension. People have got their brains in a twist over the 3rd chair. It was supposed to be for the interpreter, but in the end it turned into a tete-a-tete, a source told The Telegraph. On the same day, Trump posted that Russian dictator Vladimir Putin was not interested in ending the war in Ukraine, was styling and suggested imposing banking or secondary sanctions on Russia. U.S. President Donald Trump has expressed his disappointment over the Russian missile strike on Kyiv and uncertainty about Russian leader Vladimir Putin's intentions to end the war, reported by Trump during a conversation with the journalist before boarding Air Force One. Trump expressed his disappointment with Putin over the missile strike on Kyiv and stated that he could not confidently say whether the Russian dictator is serious about ending the war. Quote, "We'll see what happens over the next few days. We'll probably learn a lot. I was very disappointed that missiles were flying by Russia," he said as he left New Jersey. Trump noted that Putin must demonstrate a willingness to end the war. "I want him to stop shooting, sit down and sign a deal," he said. "We have the confines of a deal, I believe, and I want him to sign it and be done with it and just go back to life," Trump added. Commenting on his 15-minute meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky in the Vatican, Trump emphasized that the Ukrainian president is doing everything possible for his country.
"It was a nice meeting. It was a beautiful meeting. I tell you, it's the nicest office I've ever seen. It was a beautiful, beautiful scene. He wants to do something good for his country. I think he is doing a good job. He is working hard. We'll see what happens. He told me that he needs more weapons, but he's been saying that for 3 years."
Trump believes Zelensky has become calmer and more interested in reaching a peace agreement. He specifically stated that Zelensky is willing to give up Crimea. "Oh, I think so," Trump said. "But Crimea will never be recognized as part of Russia. This is not just a matter of political stance, but a fundamental principle of international law and territorial integrity. For the international community, especially Western nations, Crimea remains Ukrainian territory, and no amount of manipulation or diplomatic pressure will change that. The annexation of Crimea by Russia in 2014 is seen as an illegal and unjustified act that violated Ukrainian sovereignty and international agreements." Ukraine should not agree to the recent proposal by US President Donald Trump regarding territorial concessions in exchange for a ceasefire with Russia, ARD reports referring to German Minister of Defense Boris Pistorius. In his opinion, Ukraine will still have to concede some territory for the sake of a ceasefire. However, under no circumstances should it be to the extent outlined in the proposal by the US President. Pistorius believes that Ukraine could have achieved such results on its own nearly a year ago simply by signing a capitulation. Ukraine could have achieved this on its own almost a year ago through capitulation, Pistorius said. Furthermore, the German Minister of Defense assured Ukraine of continued military assistance even if US support were to cease. US peace plan for ending war. In recent days, several Western media outlets reported that the US had allegedly proposed a 7-point peace plan to Ukraine. According to this proposal, Ukraine would have to recognize Crimea and the temporarily occupied territories as Russian and renounce NATO membership. In exchange, the US would lift sanctions on Russia and Moscow would cease hostilities, shelling, and the war would essentially be frozen. In response, Ukraine, along with its European partners, presented its alternative plan for ending the war. President Volodymyr Zelensky has stated that Russia has been trying to deceive the United States and other countries and continue dragging out the war against Ukraine as no preparations by Russia for a real ceasefire have been observed, reported by Zelensky's evening address.
The Russians talk a lot about their alleged readiness to accept American proposals, but so far, there have been no signs of the Russian army preparing for real silence. On the contrary, since Easter, the occupier has resumed its usual assault activity. Of course, at the cost of significant losses, the Russians are trying to advance.
And every day of such battles at the front proves that Russia is really trying to deceive the world, to deceive America and others, and to further prolong this war. And that is why we need pressure. Pressure is indispensable to make the Russians take all the steps, whatever is necessary to stop the war. Yesterday's meeting in the Vatican and Rome confirmed that our partners understand what is happening. Zelensky also noted that on Sunday, the 27th of April, he had listened to several reports from Alexander Syrsky, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, regarding the situation on the line of contact. Our military continues to operate in the Kursk and Belgorod regions. We maintain our presence in Russia, he said. Russian dictator Vladimir Putin has confirmed the involvement of North Korean troops on Russia's side in the war against Ukraine following a statement by North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and has thanked them. The US State Department has expressed concern and stated that military support for Russia from North Korea must cease, reported by Sky News, citing a spokesperson for the US State Department and Russian news outlet Kommersant. About details, Sky News reported that the US State Department had stated it is concerned about North Korea's direct involvement in the war. In an email, a spokesperson for the department said that military deployment to Russia and any support provided by the Russian Federation to North Korea in return must end. Meanwhile, the Kremlin reported on Monday, the 28th of April, that Putin thanked the North Korean units for participating in battles against the formations of the armed forces of Ukraine in Kursk region. The Kremlin terrorist and dictator stated that the Russian people will never forget the heroism of the Korean Special Forces fighters who gave their lives for Russia, for our shared freedom. It is absolutely outrageous and sickening that North Korean forces are now openly fighting alongside Russian troops against Ukraine. The fact that North Korea, a brutal regime already infamous for its human rights atrocities, is sending its soldiers to kill Ukrainians reveals their true face. They are martyrs, just like the Russians they support. The Kremlin's grotesque celebration of North Korean heroism is nothing but a wild glorification of death and destruction. Putin's thank you to North Korean fighters for shedding innocent blood shows the moral collapse of those regimes. They are united not by any noble cause, but by a shared contempt for human life, freedom, system and international law. This horrifying alliance must be condemned without hesitation. Ukraine is not just fighting Russia, it is now confronting a coalition of brutal dictatorships. Every loss of life at the hands of these foreign killers only strengthens the world's determination. They will never break the spirit of a free and sovereign Ukraine. Their crimes will not be forgotten, and justice will come. That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Like and subscribe.